Let's come here to the studio, and I want to have a conversation here with Dr. Chitayi Murabula. He is the former Secretary General of KMPDU. Thank you so much for joining us here, Daktari.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so I'd like to hear your thoughts about this whole journey that the doctors, the officials especially, have been taken through. I'm sure you've experienced this before. It's not too alien.
Yes, Betty, and I would like to first express my reprieve at the ruling today, which gives the parties more time to negotiate.
Right.
And rightly, as you put it, this journey has been extremely long because the collective bargaining agreement that we talk about is actually a six-year-old affair. Starting back in 2011, when we agreed to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement. And the negotiation of a bargaining agreement is not a 1 day or 2 day or 1 month affair. It can take a very long time, and as it was with the current one, it took quite a period of time over 1 year. And thereafter, the collective bargaining agreement then was signed and was to be implemented. So there was a long process involving different players, Transitional Authority, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission,
but the government has
union.
Come out to say that they were not involved from the get-go.
Yes, I must say that they were involved.
The SRC was involved.
The SRC was fully involved. In fact, if you are to look at the amount of correspondence between the union and SRC, it is voluminous since 2013. There has been constant communication, and only that the SRC kept giving false promises and postponing when they would give their advice according to the Constitution, Article 230, on the remuneration of doctors. Remember, they are not mandated to set our salaries, only to advise the government.
So why?
They withheld that advice for quite a long time, and that's why when we got to 2016 December, already a lot had gone wrong. There had been a court case, involved, and the grievances had piled up.
The government is also saying that this CBA is extremely exaggerated, and it goes back to the question of if both parties sat and they agreed that this is what the doctors want and this is what we'll give. Why now is the government saying that this is exaggerated?
Yes, I did sit in some of the negotiations, and I can tell you that the collective bargaining agreement is a negotiated agreement. It's entrenched within the law. Right. And it's not a proposal. The collective bargaining agreement is not a proposal by the union on what they think their members should be paid, but it is a negotiated agreement on various items going beyond salaries that affect their members. And so, yes, the negotiations happened. There are records of minutes. I sat in some of the meetings, and there are minutes to prove that we negotiated with government officials. And when we made final agreements, then we signed together with the government officials in goodwill. I can tell you that the initial demands from the union, if you go back to 2011, you'll find that there were 13 demands that we had then. And those 13 demands were summarized into labor relation issues and policy related issues. And the labor-related issues were addressed by the Musimi Task Force report, which was concluded, and currently it is the most progressive document on healthcare in Kenya, which requires to be implemented as well, but it is in Afya House, and I'm hoping that it will be taken seriously and implemented. Then the second group of demands was addressed by the labor negotiations that took place thereafter, culminating in the collective bargaining agreement. And therefore, there was a lot of ceding of ground. When it came to negotiating the CBA, a lot of ceding of the ground. The doctors, know that negotiations have to proceed in good faith. And those are the principles that did guide us in reaching that agreement. A lot of considerations were made. Input was made by Treasury and so on, other government agencies that are concerned.
So it was a robust process.
It was extensive. It was extensive. There was there was documentation, scientific evidence, comparisons between our economic situation and other economic situations elsewhere in other countries, and the work that the doctor does. It was an extensive process.
All right.
Yeah.
The president a few weeks ago sat together with the union officials, and he gave them something. He proposed something that would see at least them getting something much more than what they're getting now. The doctors had a stance so hard that they're not willing to also accept or sit down or negotiate newly with what the government has to offer right now.
Okay, what I have to say is that it was a good gesture for an offer to be made by the government for status. What I would like to say is that these negotiations have gone on like a circus. At one point you feel like there's some progress being made. Then the next point again you feel that some few steps are being taken in the opposite direction. My advice will be that at this time, what is important is for the president and the government not to give up or to appear like they're giving up in resolving the crisis, because certain startling statements have been made from the government, some government personalities that make it appear as though there is unwillingness, there is some inertia on the part of government, some lethargy to resolve this crisis. With several personalities, the government spokesperson, the CS Treasury. What is coming out lately? What is coming out lately is that the government has sufficient resources to implement the collective bargaining agreement and other demands, but what is happening is that there may be some fear on the part of government on the effect that may have in terms of the general sector. But I think that fear should not be there. In this country, there's come a time when every professional should demand for their true worth. It's not just the doctors. There are a lot of complaints from the workers in Kenya, and we need to start addressing them. Even if we'll start with doctors, it will be important to also address the needs of other workers within Kenya.
Right.
So my opinion and advice will be that the president, being the leader of government, and his government should not appear like they're giving up on the negotiation. It's always good to reset, because where we are now, there's a lot of mistrust between the union and the government. There's a lot of mistrust. We have to take into cognizance that mistrust, and the way forward may probably involve the government side giving the doctors a new group to negotiate with, and that's my personal opinion. A new group to negotiate with, so that the new grievances that may have arisen as a result of the past several days of negotiation can first be put aside. And I also wish that the court processes were not there, because once you threaten to imprison people you are supposed to be negotiating with, then you don't give them incentive to negotiate.
But that is the government. This is an independent judiciary that came in to hold them to account for contempt of court.
Yes.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on that whole process. First of all, the one month jail sentence. What do you feel about that? And also now they've been given a 5-day extension. Many are saying that it's sort of like twisting the doctors to call off the strike even with nothing at hand.
Yes, the idea of sentence has no precedent in Kenya. There's no time when any worker has spent a single day in jail because of matters related to industrial relations. It's important for us to realize that these disputes between the government and the doctors is not a purely legal issue. It's not a purely legal issue. It will be extremely unfortunate if any leader was to be taken to jail, and I think it will blow up any chance of negotiating in the near future between the union and the government, and therefore I think the solution at this point may not come from the court, because even according to the Labor Relations Act, the industrial court, is limited on what it can do about such a crisis. The law says that simply they can ask the parties to negotiate further.
To negotiate
so,
further.
So it's
yes.
important for the parties to negotiate in good faith.
All right.
And if the stalemate has, there are some grievances that are now present because of the long-standing stalemate, I think it is important to think about resetting the whole process. There's always a solution, and there are Kenyans of good standing who have participated in resolving crisis, because this is also, you have to look at it as a conflict. Apart from the legal aspects, there's the labor aspect, and then there is also the humanitarian problem that is affecting
many Kenyans.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for your time. We've been speaking to Dr. Chitayi Murabula. He's the former Secretary General of KMPDU. He was part of the negotiations that were made earlier on in that 2013 collective bargaining agreement between the doctors and the government. Thank you so much for your time. All right, so we want to continue